You're listening to Superpowers of the Soul on the Superpower Up Podcast, the show that elevates superpowers to the divine.
Welcome, everyone. This is Jennifer Urezzio. I'm a superpower expert and founder of Soul Language, and this is Superpowers of the Soul. And we're with Jami Hearn today, and we're talking about women empowerment strategies for success. Welcome, Jami.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and your audience.
Yay, I'm so excited. And, you know, success has always been a big topic with my kind of journey and career. And so I love that we're going to be really getting deep down into this topic today. But before we start, I want the audience to get to know you a little better. And I really want to understand what you consider the superpower of your soul.
Well, it really depends on which superpower cape I put on that day, but the superpower of my soul is the ability to hear what is not being said from my clients and in situations. So often we go through conversations and interactions with people professionally and personally on autopilot. And we spend so much time anticipating what the other person is going to say. We're forming our response before we have even truly heard and absorbed their message. So that is one of the most pivotal superpowers that I utilize with my clients, is knowing what's not being said.
And how has that superpower shown up in your own life? Because I think that's really important for people to understand that, you know, your superpower is for your use first and then extended to others. So how has that supported your own journey?
I honestly ignored it for a long time. I spent a lot of years making choices and building a successful, and I use that term with air quotes, life and profession and existence, because I was caught up in that wanting to fulfill someone else's expectation. In the moment that I realized that I was never saying my actual truth, was the moment that I started on a far more introspective spiritual journey to identify what my purpose was and what was going to resonate for me to spend the rest of my life doing. I was in my late 20s or early 30s when that journey started. And it's an ongoing journey for decades.
Yeah. So. The sacred purpose always is, you know, it's really not about doing. It's fundamentally what you're here to be, and then offer that being state to others. And I think that people, you know, I think different levels of consciousness and evolution in our lives hear that or express that or understand that sacred purpose differently. My sacred purpose started out with the word success. Now my sacred purpose is about connection. You can't have success without being connected, but I was only at the evolutionary point of hearing the word success. So yeah, our sacred purpose is going to develop. You're going to understand it more deeply tomorrow than you do today. With that being said, what do you consider your sacred purpose?
My sacred purpose is to give women the tools that are readily available to them in order to allow them to release self-judgment, honor their true self-worth, and truly reclaim their sovereign power.
And how is that reflected in your own journey? Like, how has some of the experiences you have allowed you to kind of dive into this subject and create all these tools?
I spent my entire adolescence and young adulthood operating from a masculine model and setting a goal and obtaining it at any cost. And that came with much self-judgment, much diminution of my value if I didn't hit the goal the way someone else thought I should be hitting the goal, or in the time frame that someone else thought I should, which I was then projecting on myself. And I was giving my power away to all of these societal structures: school, sports, my parents, what college I should go to, what grad school I should go to, where I should apply for a job after I was done with grad school. So I never had an awareness of how much suffering I was inflicting on myself.
Yeah, sounds exhausting. And I just want to clarify for our audience, and I know Jami means this, but I want to make sure that the audience really truly understands this. You know, I think there's this conception about giving your power away in spirituality, and you can't give your power away to anyone. But what you can do is utilize your power, you know, in several different areas and without focus, so it feels like you have no power left. And I always tell clients to do the penny game. Okay, so if you have 100 pennies, what are you spending your 100 pennies on each day? And at the end of the day, how many is left over for your own truth, your own creation, your own expression of what you want to create? So it sounded like, from what you were saying, Jami, wow, you were really kind of all over the place and there was nothing left for you. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really a painful place to be. So how did you start to kind of disassemble that?
Well, it started really unraveling when I learned that one of my children had a heart defect.
Oh, no.
And I was pregnant with him. It was in utero. And I saw a side of my husband at the time that I didn't know. And it kind of rocked me to think that the person I thought I had chosen to spend the rest of my life with had no compassion for our unborn child or me receiving that news. And to make matters a little more complicated, my mother's brother died from the same heart defect.
Whoa.
I felt really alone in that moment.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point. That's when I realized that I needed more and I needed to find it within myself.
Well, that's an amazing kind of catalyst of a journey for you. Before we break here, you know, what has been a big theme that your soul has shared with you throughout your journey?
Boundaries. That has been a tremendous theme in my own journey and what I have helped other people to create, and how honoring my own boundaries has allowed me to show up in a more authentic, effective way, personally and professionally.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that after break, because I love this subject of boundaries. And I also feel like when we say that, you know, people kind of, it's to me sometimes when people say that, for myself, I'm like, okay, you just gave me like an insurance form. I know I'm supposed to be able to fill this out, but I really don't know what you're talking about, right? So I really want to cover that a little bit more when we talk about empowerment strategies for success. But before the break, let everyone know how to get in touch with you. Give out your website.
My website is www.jamihearn.com, and that's JamiHearn.
Perfect. And that will be in the show notes, everyone. So stay tuned with me and Jami. We're going to be talking about women empowerment strategies for success.
Hello, everyone. This is Tonya Dawn Rekla, Executive Director of SuperPower Experts, and we want to thank each of you for making SuperPower Up the #1 podcast network for personal development and spiritual growth. Because people like you have the courage to say that mindfulness, healthy living, disrupting reality, the pursuit of consciousness, responsible entrepreneurship, and radical parenting matter. We now amass over 1 million downloads monthly in more than 90 countries. Our numbers keep growing because there are far more people willing to live divergently than mass media wants to acknowledge. For you, the change makers, the light bearers, the way showers, we say thank you. If you're ready to take the next step in your evolution, go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower quiz. And as Neva Lee Rekla, our youngest podcaster, likes to remind us, remember, we all have superpowers and we can change the world.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Jennifer Urezzio. I am a superpower expert. You're listening to Superpowers of the Soul, and I'm with Jami Hearn today, and we're talking about women empowerment strategies for success. And when we, before the break, we were talking about boundaries, and I was talking about how sometimes when people say boundaries to me, I'm like, great, I know I'm supposed to be able to read this, but it sounds like Russian. I don't know what you're talking about. So let's really get everyone, including me, on the same page about when we say boundaries, what are we really talking about? Can we put some structure and some tangibility around that word?
Absolutely. And I always encourage people to start with small, easy to manage accomplishments when it comes to boundaries. So, one of my favorite boundaries is something that I employ with my family and my husband. So, if I have two places that I meditate, and if I am sitting in meditation in either of those places, they know that unless the house is on fire or someone's bleeding, they're going to give me a couple of minutes. And I have asked them to honor that. And I only ask for a few minutes. So then I don't have to deal with mom guilt, feeling like I'm ignoring my children, or deal with, anything else that might be going on in the catastrophic state of having teenagers in the house. But I still have a few minutes to myself where I can meditate or read a book or listen to a podcast. And people sometimes say, I don't have time to do those things. But those things that seem like a luxury are very, very important to feeding your soul. So I encourage people to steal 5 minutes. First thing when you get up, or before you go to bed, or whatever time lends itself nicely to you. Putting a little boundary around some self-care and quality time for yourself.
I love it. And I think, boundaries are a real key to kind of empowerment and a strategy for success, because it adds consistency. And, if you are, running on such low vibration and low energy, you can't really, that's what you're putting into your life and into your business. What do you consider another strategy to be on the road to success and continuing our success as women?
I have another important piece that I institute for myself professionally. I have a boundary about what gets placed on my desk. And that's something that I have imposed on myself. I'm self-employed. So it's not like I have someone else putting things on my desk. If you do have someone else putting things on your desk, a box to help organize things may be a good idea. But I only place the things on my desk that are integral to the things I need to accomplish that day. I do have a shelf next to my desk where I have things that are ongoing projects that need to be revisited occasionally. But I'm very firm on not putting things on my desk that don't need my attention or energy that day, because I don't need the distraction, and I don't need to disperse my energy over too many things that really don't require that.
I love it. So I think it's really important that for us to kind of define success for ourselves. How do you feel about that topic, and what can you offer a person for a strategy about around success and those definitions?
I love that. We have been so conditioned by our culture to define us as promotions, money, houses, material items, when in fact, I know many, many women who are materially or financially successful from an outside perspective and feel purposeless and empty inside. So my personal definition of success is being excited to wake up in the morning and accomplish or tackle whatever is on the agenda for that day. So it could be personal, it could be professional, but it doesn't necessarily come with a financial piece or anything that is visible on an external level. It's an internal feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction.
Yeah, I love that. My definition of success is a result, which is great because you're getting results all the time, internal and external. So I'm always succeeding. And then I get to determine, is that a result that brings me or allows me to remember that I'm whole and complete, or is that a result that creates separation? And then I get to readjust. So as we're wrapping up here, and I come down to my last two questions, again, give out that website address.
It is www.jamihearn.com.
Brilliant. Okay, so what's the one thing that you want people to remember from our conversation today?
I want people to remember that they already have access to the blueprint of success deep within their souls. So when they are inspired to take an action toward that success, I encourage them to listen and follow the intuitive action that they're being guided to take. We all have access to that internal guidance, and we really should listen as much as possible.
Agreed. I love that. My last question is, if you were a magnet on whatever you call your higher powers refrigerator, what would your magnet say?
That's fantastic. I love that. That magnet would say, I have too many choices. It would say that I am in exactly the right place at exactly the right time.
Brilliant. I love that one. Someday I'm going to create all these magnets from the guests because they're really good ones.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today and talking to us about empowerment and success. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, and I get how important going within and boundaries are to us succeeding in whatever we want to accomplish. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful spending some time with you.
You too. And if you like what you heard today, you can connect with me and all the other experts in the Superpower Net at superpowerexperts.com/the net. Now, don't forget to not only find your connection, but be your connection. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for listening.
Are you ready to discover your superpowers? Go now to superpowerexperts.com and take the Superpower Quiz today.